So June is supposed to be Prime Month. And yes, I do think that certain writers are worth reading, especially during this month. It's called Naked, this book by David Sedaris. I actually met him and I have a signature somewhere. I met him at a reading. I desperately wanted my son to come and he refused to come. He was at that awkward age where, well, he's still at it, where they don't want to come with their mother to a book reading. So I had him sign the book to Raphael. You didn't miss a thing. So this is David Sedaris when he was young, a young Greek American. Now he's a bit older. David Sedaris is a playwright and a regular commentator for National Public Radio. He's also the author of best-selling Bard Fever or Barrel Fever. He lives in New York City. I don't know if it's true, if he still lives in New York City. So let me read what the book jacket says. A naked David Sedaris message, alternately rendered in Shakespeare, Italian, Spanish, and Pidgin Greek, is the same. Pay attention to me. Whether he's talking to the road with thieving, quadriplegic, sorting out the fancy from the extra fancy in a bleak fruit packing factory, or celebrating Christmas in the company of a recently paroled prostitute. This collection of memoirs creates a wickedly incisive portrait of an all too familiar world. It takes Sedaris from his humiliation bout with obsessive behavior and a plague of tics to the title story in which he finally is forced to face his naked self in the mirrored sunglasses of a lunatic. At this soulful and moving moment, he picks potato chip crumbs from his pubic hair and wonders what it all means. This remarkable journey into his own life follows the path of self-effacement and a lifelong search for identity, living in both under suspicion and overdressed. Some of the original acid and wild, wacky writing, uniquely affecting. Sedaris' story infests the mind as if they were your own dark memories. Sedaris' humor humor out of the blackest of scenarios, peppering his narrative with memorable turns of phrase and repeatedly surprising double-edged wit, suggesting a cosmic mix of J.D. Salinger and John Waters. A satirical brazenness that holds up next to Twain and Nathaniel West. Okay, so here's a bit from the first story. So this is one of his first books. I've never really tell you when it was published because I read a lot of his books. I never read this one, apparently, or I don't remember. I think I usually would remember, but it was one of his first books. Yeah. Chipped beef. I'm thinking of asking the servants to wax my change before placing it in the Chinese tank I keep on my dresser. It's important to have clean money, not new, but all maintained. That's one of the tenets of my church. It's not mine personally, but the one I attend with my family, the Cathedral of the Sparkling Nature. It's that immense Gothic building with the towers and bells and statues of common people poised to leap from the spires. They offer tours, and there's an open house the first Sunday of every October. Oh, what's going on, Chef? Sam almost fell. Are you okay, babe? No? Okay. So we'll continue with the reading. I don't know what happened here. So, you should come. Just don't bring your camera because the flash tends to spook the horses, which is a terrible threat to me and my parents, seeing as the Reverend insists that we occupy the first pew. He rang us up not long ago, tipsy. He's a tippler, saying that our faces brought him closer to God. And it's true. We're terribly good looking. They're using my mother's profile on the new monorail token. And as for my father and me, the people at NASA want to design a lunar model based on the shape of our skulls. Our cheekbones are aeronautic, and the clefts of our chins can hold up to 3 dozen BBs, whatever that means, at a time. When asked, most people say that my greatest asset is my skin, which glows. It really does. I have to tie a sock over my eyes in order to fall asleep at night. Others like my eyes or my perfect gleaming teeth, my thick head of hair, or my imposing stature. But if you want my opinion, I think my most outstanding feature is my ability to accept a compliment. Because we're so smart, my parents and I, are able to see through people as if they're made of hard, clear plastic. We know what they look like naked and can see the desperate inner workings of their hearts, souls, and intestines. Someone might say, "How is it hanging, big guys?" And I can smell his envy, his fumbling desire to win my good graces with a casual and inappropriate folksiness that turns my stomach with pity. How is it hanging? Indeed. They know nothing about me and my way of life, and the world, you see, is filled with people like this. Take, for example, the Reverend, with his trembling hands and waxy jacket of skin. He's so more He's no more complex than one of those 5-piece wooden puzzles given to idiots and school children. He wants us to sit in the front pew so we won't be a distraction to the other parishioners, who are always turning in their pews, craning their necks to admire our physical and spiritual beauty. They're enchanted by our breeding and want to see firsthand how we're coping with our tragedy elsewhere. A tragedy. Everywhere we go, my parents and I are the center of attention. It's them! Look, there's the son! Touch him! Grab for his tie, lock of his hair, anything. The Reverend hoped that by delivering his sermon on horseback, he might regain a bit of attention for himself. But even with the laureate and his team of prancing Clydesdales, his plan has failed to work. At least with us seated in the front row, the congregation is finally facing forward, which is a step in the right direction. If it helps bring people closer to God, we will be willing to perch on the pipe organ or lash ourselves to the original stainless steel cross that hangs above the altar. We do just about anything because, despite our recent hardships, our first duty is to help others. The inner city picnic fund, our annual headache drive, the polar injury wing at the local memorial hospital. We give unspeakable amounts to charity, but you'll never hear us talk about it. We give anonymously because the sack full of thank you letters break our hearts with their clumsy handwriting and hopeless phonetic spelling. Word gets out that we're generous and good looking, and before you know it, our front gate will become a campsite for fashion editors and crippled children who tend to ruin the grass with the pointy shanks of their crutches. No, we do not. No, we do what we can, but with a little fanfare as possible. You won't find us waving from floats or marching along the Grand Pupa because that would only draw attention to ourselves. Oh, you see, the hangers on doing that sort of thing all the time, but it's cheap and foolish, and one day they'll face the consequences of their folly. They're hungry for something they know nothing about. But we know all too well that the price of fame is the loss of privacy. Public displays of happiness only encourage the many kidnappers who prowl the leafy estates of our better neighborhoods. When my sisters were taken, my father crumpled the ransom note and tossed it into the eternal fire flame that burns beside the mummified pilgrim we keep in the dining hall of our summer home in the olfactory. We don't negotiate with criminals because it's not in our character. Every now and then we think about my sisters and hope they're doing well, but we don't dwell upon that matter, as that only allows the kidnappers to win. My sisters are gone. Sorry. My sisters are gone for the time being. But who knows, maybe they'll return someday. Perhaps when they're older and have families of their own.